afternoon, lovely bakers. Welcome to the 3 p.m. bake along. Hi! It's Monday again. Yes, it comes round every week, doesn't it? Right, today we are making chocolate tiffin. Now this is one of my sister's favourite things, and the best ones that you can get are actually from M&S. They do a really amazing chocolate tiffin. So this is my version. Now what you will need, as well as all your ingredients, is some spatulas, some bowls, as usual. I've got 3 bowls, but we're probably only going to need 2. One to melt our chocolate, one to mush our biscuits, and we're going to add it all together in that same bowl. Then you will also need a pan to go on the hob, as we're going to melt some of our ingredients on the hob. So, normally I would make this recipe, just the whole thing, in one ginormous pan, and you can do that. It will save you a lot of washing up. All you will need to do is, if you've got a sandwich bag or something like that, I do not, but if you have a sandwich bag, you can mush up your biscuits in your sandwich bag, then just get out your big pan and do everything else in a big pan. Saves you having to wash things up. I am using lots of different things because I only have a small pan. Since the Teflon peeled off all my other ones, I'm sticking to ones that you won't get little bits of metal in your dessert. So, here we go. Happy Monday, everybody. We're baking, the sun's shining, it's going to be a nice day, and we don't have to put our oven on today, which is always good news when it is as hot as it is today. So, let's get started. We've got all of our ingredients, biscuits. The only thing I couldn't find for this recipe was the cocktail cherries, glace cherries. So I'm going to miss them out. And it works for me anyway, because Jim doesn't like them, so I can force feed him chocolate if they're not in there. Always good. So let's get going. First thing I'm going to do is get our melting things on to melt. So here we go. What we need to put into our pan, you've got your nice scales there ready. I want you to measure out your butter, your sugar and your golden syrup into your pan. So let's start off with the butter. We only need, we need 150 grams of butter. We're only using a small amount of brown sugar for this recipe. Unlike most of my other recipes that have loads of brown sugar in. See, Karina, if you're watching, the brown sugar always comes in handy. She managed to get herself a giant bag of brown sugar, and I know what she's talking about because I went to Aldi this morning to do our weekly shop, and Aldi have only got giant bags of sugar. You can either have a giant bag of golden caster sugar, a giant bag of brown sugar, or a giant bag of granulated. Oops, I got myself a giant bag of caster sugar because I'm going to need it, aren't I? Right, now let's get this up and running before I start adding any butter into anything. Make sure my video's on the go. Mute. Fabulous. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Let's see who's watching. Hi Rich, good to see you. I delivered some cake to Rich yesterday. Got some cookie brownie bars. Saved me from eating them all. I still had about 7 over the weekend. They were really good. Right, so we're measuring our butter. We need 150 grams of butter in our pan. So let's do this. Butter going in. Now I've kind of cut it into chunks, just helps with the melting. It will help to melt our butter quicker if it's in small chunks. So there we go, a bit more butter. 150 grams. This is a nice simple recipe. It's very similar to biscuit cake. If you watched the biscuit cake video or made that, it's pretty similar to that, just with a few different measurements of ingredients. It's kind of a cross between a chocolate biscuit cake and a cracknel cake, but it's delicious. Yeah, the technique and how we make it is exactly the same. We melt everything in a pan, smush it into a baking tray, and that's all we need to do. Right, so 150 grams of butter into our pan. Now we're going to measure our brown sugar, and we only need 40 grams of brown sugar. So 40 grams of brown sugar going in there. It's not very much, so be careful that you don't go over. 40 grams of brown sugar, and then we need 200 grams of golden syrup. Now I've just realised I've got my new golden syrup out, but I've got a little bit left in a bottle somewhere. Being a short person doesn't help, does it? Ready? My trusty step on the go. I'm in the cupboard. There we go. Don't want to open a new one when I've got some left. So we've measured our 150 grams of butter, we've measured our 40 grams of brown sugar, and now going in here is 200 grams of golden syrup. I'll try and scrape the bottom of the bottle with a knife, look. 200 grams of golden syrup. I hate having like half bottles of things. It drives me mad with stuff like shampoo and shower gel. You know, when you haven't quite finished one bottle and then you crack open another bottle, it just annoys me. I have like hundreds of bottles of shampoo and things with just a dreg in the bottom. Throw them away! You're getting an insight into the crazy brain of me today. Woo! So, there's one bottle used up. And I've got, that was 30 grams, so I still need a lot more golden syrup. It's got a lot of golden syrup in this. This is one of the things that makes it different from biscuit cake. Biscuit cake doesn't have golden syrup, but Tiffin does. So just keep squirting away. 200 grams of golden syrup. Oh, there we go, squidging it in. This is a great one to make with kids because it's super easy. There's not much dangerous things that they can get involved with. So you should get the kids involved with this one. And if they're already involved, kids enjoy squirting in your golden syrup. This is one of the most fun bits. Look, oh, how high can you go? Until you've got 200 grams in there. Whoa. Oh, I've gone a bit over. I like golden syrup, so it's fine. Great. So there we go. We've got our 150 grams of butter, 40 grams of brown sugar, and 200 grams of golden syrup. Love the smell of golden syrup. Now, I want you to put them on the hob and get them heating up at a medium heat. We just want them to melt down and combine together. So they don't need to be too hot. Don't let them boil or overheat. Just give it a little bit of a stir to get that golden syrup wrapped around the butter and the sugar and all the rest of the loveliness in there. And then leave it. As long as it's on a low heat, we can leave it unattended and it'll be absolutely fine. But just be mindful of it. We don't want to leave it for too long because we don't want it to burn. Right then, here we go. Next thing is to mush our biscuits. We're using rich tea biscuits, but whatever biscuits you've got, feel free to throw them in. I might even throw in a few digestive biscuits just because I want to see how it changes the flavour. This is kind of one of those recipes, like biscuit cake, where you can just bung loads of stuff in. If there's anything that you really love to eat, whack it into this recipe because it's not going to change it in any way, it will only add to the flavour. So, how many biscuits do we need? 300 grams. Now what I want you to do is measure out 150 grams. Now 150 grams of your biscuits. I'm going to put in a few digestives. So we want half of the amount that we need. 150 grams of our biscuits. And that's what we're going to mush. The rest of the biscuits we're going to chop up and break up into big chunks. These ones, however, we want to mush down into dust. So if you've got a sandwich bag, put them all into a sandwich bag. If you don't have a sandwich bag, but you have a... Oh! I've got it! Ow! I'm injured. I've broken my nail. Oh! If you don't have a sandwich bag, but you have a rolling pin, this is a good technique. It's very technical. You mash them. You mash them with your rolling pin, just like that. To get your biscuits in a bowl, and just mash them. That's all there is to it. Mush up your biscuits, and you want them completely broken into nothing. I hate that feeling. Broken nail. Don't let your nail fall into your biscuits. I need one of them blue plasters. Help! I'm injured. But look, good one-handed motion. Looks a bit wrong. So just mush your biscuits into dust. Now remember, this is only half of our biscuits. So the other half of the measurement, we will be breaking into chunks and adding to the tiffin in chunks. This, however, is going to give our chocolate tiffin its texture, and it's going to help to thicken it so it sets nice and solid. Just keep mashing away, mash, mash, mash. Yes, if you're using a sandwich bag, you put them into a sandwich bag and then you bash them with a hammer while they're in the sandwich bag. It's great for getting out any latent anger or anything. Any frustrations? Mush some biscuits. That's what it's for. Everyone needs an outlet. Keep going until there are no big chunks. Imagine you're making a cheesecake base. This is very similar to making a cheesecake base. Mush, 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 mush. There we go. Looking good. And once they are almost completely all broken up, don't worry if there's a few little chunks, because we're going to be adding more chunks in a minute. Let's get them all mashed in. And there we go. Done. Check on your melting mixture. Make sure that that's all melting down nicely. Mine is going very well. Let's show you. I'm going to show you. Can you see that there? Can you see? I've got some chunks of butter still, but the sugar has dissolved into the rest of the mixture, and it's all looking very nice and combined. So that's going well. We're going to keep that heating. Oh, I'm going to just dispose of my broken nail. Nobody wants to know that. Right then, so we've got our golden syrup, our butter and our sugar melting on the pan. We also have half of our biscuits mushed. The next thing we need to do is we need to break up the rest of our biscuits. So let's weigh them out. In there is 150 grams. So in here, we need another 150 grams. Now for chunks, I'm just going to use rich tea biscuits. So in they go, measure out the remaining 150 grams of rich tea biscuits, and we're just going to break these up into chunks. It just gives you a little bit more texture. So you've got some that are mush and some that are chunky. It's going to give us a nice mixture of textures in our tiffin. Now, I quite like the cocktail cherries. I'm a bit disappointed that I couldn't find them, but I was not prepared to go to another shop. So hopefully, if you have managed to find some cherries, they do add a really nice texture and a nice flavour to the tiffin. So don't miss them out, put them in there. I'm just going to be using sultanas instead, and I'm going to make up the difference with the sultanas. Right, so this is my remaining biscuits. Now you don't want too big a chunks for this, you want quite small chunks. So just break them up into small chunks, because we want it to press down quite firmly into the bottom of the tray. And if the chunks are too big, they won't press down very easily. You'll have ginormous chunks in there. Because it's quite shallow, this is going to be quite shallow bar. Unlike our biscuit cake, that was a little bit thicker, this is going to be quite thin. Right, break up them biscuits into chunks, and we're going to leave them separate to the mushed biscuits for now. Simply because it makes it easier for us to add our runny liquid to the mush. If there's big chunks in there, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Just break them all up. Great, now this is the kind of size of chunk that I'm going for. Nothing is any bigger than that, only smaller. So once they're all broken up into those kind of sizes, we can check on our melting liquid again. Okay, it's looking good. It's bubbling a little bit. What you want it to do is heat and mix until all of that butter comes together with the other ingredients. Now, at the moment, what you will have, I'll bring this over so that you can see, what you will have, in fact, let's measure our cocoa first. So, don't worry about your melting mixture for now. Let's get a little dish out and measure in our cocoa, because we're going to add it to our melting mixture in a minute anyway. How much cocoa do we need? We need 30 grams of cocoa. So, measure out 30 grams of cocoa powder. And we're going to put that into our melting liquid in just a minute. There we go, 30 grams. Pop it over here. And now you can come with me and have a look at the mixture. Let's go, let's go. See how we're doing over here. Okay, so I've still got it on kind of a low to medium heat. And get some light on the situation. And what we want is for that layer of butter that's on the surface to combine with the rest of the mixture. Now, if you've ever made caramel, it's a similar thing to that. Whenever you make caramel, when you add the butter, it always sits separately to the rest of the ingredients to start with. And then as it heats up, it starts to come together. Now, already, you can see here as I'm mixing, the butter is mixing together a lot better. And that's all you want. You don't want it to boil up like a caramel. All you want is for it to be hot enough that the butter combines with the rest of the ingredients. And you don't have a layer of runny butter sitting on the surface. And that is perfect, just like that. No runny butter on the surface. And we're going to add our cocoa. So the cocoa's going in all in one go. In it goes. Ta-da! I'm going to mix that in. Takes a little while to mix in, likes to sit on the surface, but it will incorporate. So just give it some time and keep mixing. Scrape it from around the edge and it will come together. The mixture will thicken up a bit. As you can see, I haven't changed the temperature. I've kept the temperature of the hob going. I'm just going to mix that in until there are no lumps left. And once we get to that stage, we can bring over our melted mixture to the rest of our ingredients and start adding them together. Now, there is one thing that I have forgotten. Has anyone noticed what that might be? What we normally do before we even start doing anything else? Can anyone tell? We've forgotten to get our tray ready. What are we going to put this in to chill? So now that that is nicely combined, no lumps of cocoa, I'm going to turn the heat off and leave it there to cool for a minute. Come back with me and we'll prepare our tray. We've got a little bit of time anyway. I planned this all along. I didn't forget. This was all along. This was when I was going to prepare my baking tray. That's right. Golden syrup. So, let's whip it out. You will need a deep baking tray like so. This is what I use for brownies and any other tray bake recipe.
I don't know that one.
I haven't asked you anything, Alexa. She just keeps butting in all the time. And we're going to line it with some foil. Foil is the easiest thing to use because once our tiffins are set, it's really easy to peel off the tiffins. Now, it does stick a little bit more than baking paper does. However, it's much easier to line the tray with. So it's what I like to use. Now, let's make sure that this is working and that my video is playing and I can see what's going on. Turn this around. Oh, there I am. Okay. So, tin lined with our foil. Then, pop that over there for now. Something stuck to my foot. Let's not worry about it. So, here we have bowl with biscuit mush. And this is what we are going to add our chocolate mixture to, which is now our chocolate mixture. Now it's quite hot, so be careful putting it down on your kitchen surface. I've got the tea towel here, so I'm going to pop it on there. Now I'm just going to give it a mix just to make sure there's no little lumps of cocoa. And then we're literally just going to pour the whole lot in on top of our biscuit mush. In it goes. Just like that. Now, if our large chunks of biscuits were in here, they would start to kind of absorb all this melted mixture before it starts to mix with the little dusty chunks. And what we want is, we want the dusty bits of biscuit, the biscuit mush, to combine with the melted ingredients to create a good base for our tiffin. So we want this to come together into like a paste almost, because it's going to be, oh, it smells really good already. It's going to be the base for our tiffin. Then the chunks can go in after to create the texture. Lovely. So I've just literally mixed it all together. It's coming together with all them mushy bits. And I'm going to add in my biscuit chunks, a bit at a time, and mix them in. And then the only other thing that I need to add is my sultanas. So let's get them measured out and added in. Now, the recipe calls for 150 grams of cherries and 50 grams of sultanas. So I'm just going to put in, about 100 grams of sultanas. Don't want too many in there. I don't want to overload it with just sultanas. However, if you're using cherries, if you found cherries, look, it's a bit of biscuit. A biscuit on my foot. Fabulous. Yeah, if you're using your cherries, I'd use the 150 grams of cherries and 50 grams of sultanas, because the cherries really give it a really nice texture and a really nice flavour. So, in they go. And my sultan. Oh gosh, they're flying everywhere. Pop them in. Whoa! I'm trying to break them up because in the bag, all the sultanas start to stick together. And I want to kind of break them up so that you don't get any like ginormous chunks of sultana in there. Hey! There we go. Pop the rest of the biscuits in as well. And just mix it all together. Now you want all of the ingredients well coated with your chocolate base. So this is going to take you a little bit of time. You want to really mix them well. You don't want any bits of chocolate without biscuit and any bits of biscuit without chocolate. The two go hand in hand. Oh, so don't be shy about it. Just really give it a good mix. Smush them all together. If you find any bits of biscuit in there that have gotten too chunky, break them down a little bit with your spatchy and give them a mix. Oh yeah, it's looking good. Right then, this is ready. Now I'm going to press this into my tray bake tin. And we're done. How's everyone doing? Hi everyone. Hi Susie, my lovely cousin Susie. And Jan. Hi Jan. Right then, let's bring over our tray and we can push, smush and squidge our tiffin into our tray. Here it goes. It's going to blob out like a ginormous blob, brown blob. Doesn't look so appetising now, but if you could smell it, you'd know that it is mostly chocolate. Here we go. And you want to spread it all out. Oh, it's quite a sticky mixture. So just take your time. Look at it, it's pulverised my foil. Could you imagine if we were using baking paper right now? What a mess we'd be getting ourselves into if this is what it does to foil. Just move it around a little bit. Press it into all the edges. Spread it out. That's it. And we want a nice even layer along the base of our tin. So get spreading. It will spread. It takes a bit of time, and obviously the longer you take doing this, the more your tiffin is going to set. So try not to take too long spreading it. Just get right in there and try not to shuffle your foil around either. Just get right in there, press it all in, spread it around until the whole base of your tray is completely covered with tiffin mixture. It's looking nice. You can be quite forceful with it. It's quite stiff mixture. Okay, spreading and mushing, squidging, all those lovely doing words. Okay, spreading it out. And that looks pretty good to me. Fab. Whoops, a minute. Smooth it all down so it's relatively even, because we still have a nice chocolate layer to go on top of this. So I want to make sure it's nice and smooth and evenly spread so it's ready for our chocolate layer. Great. Now this is going to go in the fridge. Just while we melt our chocolate, just to give it a chance to firm up a little bit and give us a chance to melt our chocolate. So there we go. Part 1 of Tiffin finished and going in the fridge. If there's room in the fridge. It's the day after, no, it's the day of the weekly shop, and as you will all sympathise with, the fridge is full. But there's still room for some chocolate Tiffin. Just a bit of moving around needed. And in it goes. Right. We can move this up a little bit now so we can see everybody. Okay then. Now all we need to do is melt our chocolate. Now I've got a nice glass bowl here, and I'm going to use this to melt my chocolate that's going to spread across the top of my Tiffin. Now you can use any kind of chocolate for this, whatever kind of is your favourite chocolate, that's what you should use. You could use dairy milk, you could use Galaxy, you could have a nice Galaxy top. Did you know, and if Donna Rose is watching, Donna Rose will know this, and my sister Jess, there is a national shortage of Galaxy chocolate. Last week I was trying to get some Galaxy chocolate for Donna Rose. I went into a petrol station, I went into maybe 2 other shops, and there was no. Sainsbury's didn't have any, neither did Tesco's and one other. And I even asked somebody, do you not stock Galaxy chocolate in there? There was not even minstrels, there was nothing. And he was very confused, and my sister Googled it for me. Turns out that the Mars factory had some sort of disaster and they've stopped producing chocolate. So there's a shortage of Galaxy chocolate. It's just absurd, it's just the craziest thing ever. But then apparently there are shops that do still stock it, just not very much of it. So beware. Start bulk buying chocolate, everyone. Get out there, buy some Galaxy quickly before we run out. What will we do? Right then. So whatever chocolate you are using, this is how we're going to melt it. Now I want you to bear in mind, if you are using milk chocolate like I am, and we're using 200 grams of chocolate, milk chocolate melts very differently to dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is a lot more stable because it has a lot less dairy in it than milk chocolate, and it melts a lot easier, a lot quicker. With dairy chocolate, there is a lot higher chance, much higher chance of it burning. Now, bear that in mind. I'm even going to add a little bit of dark chocolate to mine because I love the milk chocolate, but I want to give it a bit of a stronger kick to it. So I'm adding 150 grams of milk chocolate and then 50 grams of dark chocolate. Why not? You could add a bit of white chocolate if you wanted. Whoops. There we go. Be creative with it, whatever you want to do. Melt down some Mars bars or something and spread them over the top if you want to. The world is your oyster. Do with it what you will. So, this is our chocolate. Now we're going to melt it in the microwave, but we're going to be really careful with it because just the same as dark chocolate, and even worse than dark chocolate, it will burn very quickly. So it's going in. It's going to start off with 20 seconds on the clock. 20 seconds on the clock, and then thereafter we are going to do 10-second intervals and no more. Do not be tempted to put it in for longer than 10 seconds because it will burn and you will be sorry. I've said this before and I'll say it again, don't put it in for too long. And you will know what I'm talking about. If chocolate can melt in a child's pocket, we don't need to put it in for too long. It will melt very quickly in the microwave. Back on again, 10 seconds this time. And we're going to keep an eye on it. Just a little bit at a time, a little bit of melting. Give it a stir every time you take it out of the microwave. Give it a good stir. Try not to eat the rest of the chocolate. Put it out. Give it a stir. Because as it starts to melt, the heat from the bowl is going to keep it melting. It doesn't happen so much with a glass bowl. And if you're nervous, the best way to melt it is actually over a bain-marie. But you can melt it in the microwave if you just take your time and you're careful with it, which is what we're going to do. We're going to be careful, we're going to take our time, and we're going to do it very see, each time I take it out of the microwave, I give it a stir. Now you'll notice that your dairy chocolate melts a lot quicker than your dark chocolate. Whoops. It's the same with white chocolate. White chocolate melts a lot quicker than the other chocolates. Another reason for just doing 10 seconds at a time. We don't need to rush. It's Monday afternoon. Sun is shining. We can take our time, can't we? We don't have to rush melting our chocolate. Oops. Come out. Give it a mix. Give it a stir. Now my dairy chocolate is melting really well. My dark chocolate hasn't even started to melt yet. This is the thing. You just got to keep an eye on it. Keep mixing it, stirring it, and eventually it will all come together. So don't get impatient with it. Just keep going and make sure you stir it each time you take it out. Back in. 10 seconds more. Isn't that nice? Just whipping up a chocolatey treat on a Monday afternoon. Why not? So that all the doors are open. Oh, sorry. All the doors are open, letting the sun shine in. Bye, Jim. Where are you going? Why? Don't leave me. Come back. Bye. Have a good time. Enjoy. Drive safe. Don't speak to any strangers. Dun, dun, dun. Let's go in the shop. Jim's off to the shop. Mixing up our chocolate. There we go. Now our dairy chocolate is pretty much melted, and it's going to help our dark chocolate to melt, because the heat of it and all them broken down molecules, all sciencey, is going to mix in with the dark chocolate and help it to melt as well. But you can help it along by breaking up the chunks with your spatula. Oops, that helps. Don't want to drip any chocolate anywhere. Back in the microwave it goes. Another 10 seconds. Really, can't believe how much you need to resist the urge to just lick all the chocolate off the spatula. But have a look. Self-control. Proud of myself. Okay, come on chocolate. Have another look at you. Now another good thing about taking your time with melting your chocolate is it doesn't get too hot. If your chocolate gets too hot, it starts to bloom when it sets. It's part of the science and the magic of tempering chocolate. You temper dark chocolate at a different temperature to milk chocolate. So we're not actually tempering it right now, we're literally just melting it down. Because if you haven't watched the other videos where we do fun things with chocolate, bars of chocolate are already tempered for you. The only time you really need to properly temper chocolate is when you get the raw chocolate solids that you can get from like bakery supplies and things like that. Those, when they've already got like a little bit of whiteness around them, they need tempering. However, when you buy a bar of chocolate and it's got a shape to it, that's already been tempered. So all we need to make sure is that we don't overheat the chocolate and ruin the tempering that's already there. Now mixing it also helps to melt it. For any science people out there, it gives it more frequent collision. That's the only thing that I remember from GCSE chemistry. More frequent collision. The particles bump together more frequently because you're mixing it, and it melts a lot quicker. So give it a mix. See? All melted. And we've got like a weird hybrid of milk / dark chocolate. Oh, it smells good. Right then. Leave it to one side and whip out your Tiffin. Now it's not going to be completely cold, but that's not a problem because it can all cool together. Our chocolate's quite warm and so is our Tiffin, so it's not to worry, is it? Now what I do want you to be careful with is how you pour your chocolate over your Tiffin. We're going to try and spread it out relatively evenly to give us a helping hand with giving it an even layer. So we're going to pour, I mean the best way to do this is like in a jug, but I've used my glass bottle. So we're going to pour our chocolate and we're going to pour it as equally as we can across the surface of our tiffin like this. Pouring it back and forth so you get a relatively even spreading of the chocolate. So let it pour out, and then we're going to scrape the bowl, if I can grab hold of it. This is where, as well, one of these rubber spatulas, silicone spatula, comes in so handy, because you can really scrape every last bit of your ingredients out of your bowls with a silicone spatula. And I shall show you that now. Now I'm going to start to spread this before I scrape the bowl, because I don't want it to start to set before I spread it out. So get it all spread right up to the edges. It should spread quite easily, to be fair. Our tiffin is already quite firm, so it's not like when you're trying to pour chocolate on top of caramel and it's all squidgy underneath. It's a nice firm tiffin. Everybody loves a firm tiffin. It's a nice firm tiffin, so it's easy to spread our chocolate on. We don't want to waste any of this chocolate, do we? So we're going to use our trusty spatula, and we're going to scrape every little bit of chocolate that we can out of this bowl, and then let it pour into our tray. There we go. Scrape it off the spatula. Lovely. Keep spreading, make sure it gets right up to the edges. You don't want to miss any of the edges. What I like to do is get it so that it's actually like touching the foil. As long as the chocolate touches the foil over the top of all the edges of the tiffin, you've done well. Because we can peel that foil off afterwards and it'll be absolutely fine. Lovely. Now this, if you had a little bit of white chocolate, you could kind of drizzle your white chocolate on top of this and give it a nice kind of decoration, if you like. But I'm just going to give it a bit of a swirl like this. I'm going to smooth it over with my spatula, giving it a little bit of a swirl texture on top. And that's all I'm going to do. A last bit of drizzle of chocolate onto that edge. And that is done. Ta-da! Chocolate coated chocolate tiffin. Now you need to put this in the fridge for a good hour for it to cool completely and set. Once the surface of the chocolate has set and gone completely cold, you can chop it up and enjoy. Send me pictures of your lovely tiffin once it is done and nice and chopped up. Let me know how you get on, and as always, if you have any problems, don't hesitate to send me a message, because I am happy to help with any baking queries or problems. But that's it for today. A nice, simple, easy, quick bake. Not all of them are that way, but some of them are, so enjoy it while we've got something nice and easy. On Wednesday, we'll be making biscoff cheesecake. So I'm excited about that, and that'll be good. Get your ingredients ready if you want to bake along and do biscoff cheesecake. And I'll see you on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, enjoy your tiffins, and send me lovely pictures of what you bake. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, and also, I keep forgetting to tell people, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All the bakes, they're a bit tricky to find in the group because they're all kind of spread out over time. But in the YouTube channel, they're all there, all the videos and the recipes underneath each video. So if you want to go back and bake something that we've already baked, pop onto the YouTube channel because it's a lot easier to find them on there. Great, thank you very much. See you all on Wednesday. Have a good day. Thanks everybody.